Welcome to RNS. Guess what, Evan? I hear something rapping on my chamber door.
Huh?
Because today we're going to talk about The Crow.
Oh,
Ooh.
our first October scary month episode.
Yeah, we're going to do a bunch of horror-themed stuff. This one is probably the least traditional horror-themed thing, but it's still very
interesting way to start.
very goth. The movie takes place before Halloween, around Halloween, whatever.
And on Halloween.
And
on
Halloween,
the night
partially.
before, and yeah.
So yeah, The Crow will be the first one, and then we're gonna do what? We're gonna do Audition. We're gonna do
The Fly,
and Trick or Treat.
Yes.
So if you guess what, if you want some, your summer reading or whatever for RNS, check those out before we review those. This is the first time we're doing like a multimedia thing. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, and this is the first time we'll be talking about a comic, because we're gonna be talking about the Crow comic and also the movie.
Yeah, we'll probably do a little comparison, but for the most part, I think we're just gonna review each of them on their own. But there isn't really any like super huge, substantial comparisons to be made. They're a little different, but they're very the same. Anyways, first we need to talk about something more gooder.
Venom way more
2.
important than.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss Venom 2 real quick.
We saw Venom 2 yesterday.
Spoilers for Venom 2. I'm sure that's basically what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, Venom 2. I don't have too much to say. It was definitely better than part 1.
I think mostly what we want to talk about maybe is the implications going forward for Spider-Man, but it was more enjoyable than Venom 1, but it was also shittier in some ways.
Will you talk about the awesome ADR moment really quick?
Yeah, there's like really hardcore ADR every once in a while. What does he say? It's they're fighting, and Carnage is about to kill, like, Cletus Cassidy and Carnage, of course, in the Venom universe, they're two separate entities. And he threatens Cletus's girlfriend, and then he's like, no, don't do that. And then they leave. And then out of nowhere, like, while they're driving away, it's like a wide shot of the car driving away. And Cletus is like, and they say romance is dead. Makes no fucking sense.
We're 2 minutes in, so you can say it.
Cool. But yeah, the movie was pretty bad, but it was more fun. Literally the only reason I was more excited for Venom 2 is like, I know who Carnage is. Yeah. I care about somewhat who Carnage is. He's kind of cool.
Instead of like Titanium or whatever
stupid
other symbiote names are.
Yeah, like every other symbiote except for Venom and Carnage are completely like, I don't care. And like Black Spider-Man, like that's it.
Yeah.
I don't even like when they do Gwen and Miles and like just had the Peter symbiote story is so good. Like, I don't need to see Deadpool Venom.
Venom was already kind of an extension, like kind of milking the symbiote a little bit. Just have a separate character. And then they got really milked with Carnage, and they got extremely milked with the million other symbiote characters.
Well, yeah, because then like Venom, I don't know in the comics how Carnage comes about. I think he's just a different alien.
I think that's it too.
In the movie, he's like a child of Carnage, which is weird, or not child of Venom, excuse me. But it's weird because in the comics, the 5 like what you're saying, like Titanium and like Screech and like all of them are children of Venom, but Carnage is not, and it's like the opposite in the movies.
They just kind of took that, yeah.
And then also they kill Carnage in the movie, and that's like the only interesting Venom villain that anyone could think of. And they set up another irrelevant symbiote villain for like 1 frame.
Yeah.
On some Baron Mordo shit where he's like, I'm gonna kill all the symbiotes, but I am a symbiote. Great. So yeah, the movie was shit. It was slightly more enjoyable because of the palette swap of the villain.
I didn't think it was shit. It was okay. Like,
no, it was bad.
The stuff with him and Venom at the beginning was funny. I mean, I thought part 1 was shit, but this one was like, the fact that it was just short and sweet, and it kind of knew it was stupid.
Yeah.
It made it enjoyable for me. It definitely was not like great or anything like that. Definitely not. But I had fun watching it.
It definitely felt like I think people said this about the first Venom 2, but this one also felt like an older superhero movie, where it's like
yeah, like the 2000s Marvel movies.
Yeah, it's a little cheesy and it's not quite accurate, but it's like, I don't know. You have some, like, the heart of it's still kind of comic booky, cartoony. It's like, it's okay. And like you said, I like the.
No, continue.
No, I was gonna say I like you were saying, the some of the comedy between Venom and Tom Hardy is He's pretty good in this one.
One day we'll review Nick Cage's Ghost Rider.
Hell yeah.
Really quick, before we get on topic talk about the Crow, though, do you want to talk about the post-credit scene?
Yeah, definitely. That's pretty much the only thing I wanted to talk about. So yeah, like we said, Carnage was like, okay. And then you keep seeing these things about, like, Sony and Tom Hardy himself, the Venom movie Instagram and shit. They're all posting, like, don't loose lips sinks ships. Don't spoil Venom 2.
Try and do that Thanos shit that they did with Avengers Endgame.
Exactly. Thanos say don't talk.
Yeah.
But in this movie, they're literally not even talking. They're like, oh, don't spoil the ending. It's not the ending. It's the fucking post-credits that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Which basically they just reveal that Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Venom are now in the same universe.
Somehow Venom gets transported to the MCU. Most people are guessing it happens at the same time. I don't know, whatever happens in No Way Home where all the villains come to the MCU, they're guessing it happens like at the same time, which I think makes sense. That's probably what
honestly, I would prefer if Venom was just in like his shitty little bungalow in Mexico or wherever he was, and he just looked on TV and he was like, you know what, I don't like him.
So you're saying like you just find out the whole time Venom was in the MCU?
Yeah, why not? There's so much bullshit going on in the MCU that, like, if there were, like, aliens and, like, destroying, like, rocket ships and, like, eating people's heads, like...
You could just maybe overlook it because
already go unnoticed. Yeah. Like, it's not like, you know, in the Eternals trailer when they're like, where were you during Thanos? Like, no one would be asking Venom that. Like,
yeah. I can see that, yeah.
I think they should have just made it be like, oh, well, we're already in the same... But I think the objective is...
To do the No Way Home thing.
Well, yes, of course, but I think really what they want to do is they want to leave the door open to separate them again.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is, okay, fine. But anyways, yeah, so Venom might fit somewhere into the MCU now. People are speculating that he's the 6th Sinister Six member in No Way Home.
I don't think that's it. But...
I hope not, and I don't really think so. But it could make sense as to why they're not really hinting at or showing
who the 6th member
is, because they were waiting for maybe this movie to come out. And,
yeah.
But I hope the 6th is like Mysterio or the Vulture.
We'll see. I've heard that the second No Way Home trailer is not too far away.
That would make sense because it comes out very soon.
Yeah, so.
Get hype. We're doing the Raimi movies. Get hype.
Get hype. But first, we gotta get through all these horror movies.
Yeah. This will be fun, though. I'm excited for this.
I am as well.
So, yeah, basically, super sweet MCU implications, chocolatey fucking sweet morsels. Symbiote goodness. Oh, yeah. That's not human blood. I've tasted human blood before.
That was so stupid.
Yeah, so Venom 2, Evan, real quick, just to put a pin, not a pin, what fucking close out Venom 2, whatever. What would you rate Venom 2 out of 10?
I would give it a 6.
I'm going to rate it out of 3. I'd give it a 1 out of 3.
Okay, cool.
Boom, there you go. Now I want to talk about something cool. The Crow.
The Crow.
Yeah. So, what do you want to start off with, the comic or the movie? Or do you want to maybe talk about the differences, or...
Maybe at first we should just talk about...
The general, what it's about.
Yeah, Well, just the Crow in general. We were kind of talking about this, and kind of steeped in tragedy.
Yeah.
Just everything about it. So how the story, the original comic written by James O'Barr even came about was that his wife was killed by a drunk driver. Mm-hmm. And that kind of, like, he was, like, really upset about it. So writing The Crow was kind of a way to help him cope with it. So, yeah, The Crow is about Eric Draven. He comes back from the dead as, the titular Crow, I guess. I guess he's not the Crow, but... Some people refer to him as that.
Is it only in the movie that he's a rock star kind of guy or a guitar player?
I think it's in... is it in the comic?
I don't think it's in the comic.
You had to tell me because I haven't read it in a while. You just read it. So
yeah, there's nothing about Halloween.
You gotta get me caught up on some details.
I don't think there's anything about music. Well, there's definitely something about music in the comic.
Well, yeah.
But I don't think there's anything about Eric playing music in the comic, and I don't think there's anything about Halloween. But those are both elements of the movie.
Well, yeah, so, Eric Draven, he's murdered. Him and his wife, Shelley, are both murdered by, I guess, gang members.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the comic, it's just a random act of violence on the side of the road when their car breaks down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's a lot more brutal in the comic than the movie, I think, anyways.
I think one element that makes it more brutal in the comic, well, of course, in the comic...
Is that there was no motive behind it?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
There's literally no motive in the comic. They just want to rape her and kill him.
Yeah.
They don't even steal from them, I don't think. They just kill...
Yeah, their car's broken down.
They steal the ring, of course, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big element in both the comic and the movie, but... Yeah, in the comic, there's an element where one of them... I don't think they mentioned this in the movie, but... One of them bashes her head in, like they stomp Eric's girlfriend's head into mush, and then they keep raping her.
Yeah, which is horrible.
It's very brutal.
It's like it's really fucked up. I remember when I was reading, I was like, it's a lot more brutal than the movie. Just in general, everything about it is a lot more.
Some of it is
including Eric himself when he comes back and gets his revenge.
That's one thing I wanted to mention.
Than in the movie. He's a lot more. I don't know if that's the right word.
Irredeemable?
No, he's not. I wouldn't say he's irredeemable because I think him getting revenge on them is justified.
Pretty justified.
Yeah. But it's like he's more sparing in the movie than the comic. In the comic, he's just like, no, I'm going to kill you all.
He lets one or two guys go in the comic.
There's one specific example I'm thinking about, which I'll get into in a little bit.
Sorry. What did I want to mention? There was something about him being more brutal. In the comic and the movie, there's a difference where...
Oh, should I just finish the basic plot?
Oh, yeah,
real quick, So, yeah, he comes... Like I said, they both murdered him and his girlfriend. Soon-to-be wife. They're engaged. And then he comes back from the dead. He's revived by the Crow, who's like... It's... In the comic, it's really, like... They don't really go into depth about what the Crow is. You just know kind of some spiritual creature.
Yeah, I feel like in the comic, the Crow is kind of like it's not a familiar, like, like a witch familiar. It's not like that. It's more like a spirit animal.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it doesn't really have anything to do with the real world. It's something that's kind of guiding him.
Yes.
In the movie, it's like an actual supernatural element that ties into his powers and stuff.
Yeah. Which I don't like. I like it more in the comic.
For me, that's a lot of the differences between the comic and the movie are just to streamline it, which I think almost all of them work, except the ending. There's an element of the ending that I prefer in the comic much more.
Me too. I think we're talking about the same thing.
Probably.
Which we'll get into.
But, other than that, I enjoy the movie more.
But, I wanted to say, all the stuff they do for the movie, it kind of makes sense to make it... Because the comic is pretty artsy, like we were saying.
It's abstract.
Yeah, it's very abstract. Whereas the movie's more concise, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely... I have it in my notes here.
And they set up more of a... it's more like beat for beat. Like, you know what I mean? Like classic screenplay type writing in the movie.
Yeah, like 23 points of drama type shit, or whatever it's called. But I wrote in my notes here, they like Hollywoodified it, but I think in like the best way possible.
Yeah. So the gist of it is just after that, he comes back from the dead and he gets his revenge on the gang members. That's pretty much all you need to know.
Yeah, he kills everyone involved in the murder and rape of his wife. And
yeah.
One thing that I thought was interesting is that in the comic also, I said we weren't going to talk about the differences very much, but that's all I'm talking about. But it is pretty interesting. In the comic, I think, what was it? In the comic, Eric dies and wait.
He gets brought to the hospital, right?
I think in the comic, Eric is brought to the hospital and lives longer. Yeah, because he's like lamenting to one of the goons about that.
Yeah.
And in the movie,
she went to the hospital and Eric died on the site.
Eric straight up just dies immediately, and then Shelly goes to the hospital. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting that, like, you know how you said, I don't know in real life, was it his wife or his girlfriend that died?
It might have been the same thing. It might have been they were going to get married soon. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say because it's like. It almost feels like, because like we were saying, the Crow comic is very personal. It's almost basically a diary, like, pretty much.
Especially there's these pages where it's just talking about Eric's sadness. You know what I'm talking about? With those long pages where it's just like one panel and it's just like kind of poetry or the song lyrics.
There's definitely one page that stood out to me because I did some research before reading the comic. I had seen the movie before. I never read the comic. Evan, thank you very much for loaning me the comic.
Of course.
But there's one page that really stood out to me because I knew the context before reading it. So it's basically you can read the entire page. It's a pretty long dialogue. I don't know if it's one of the pages with no pictures or with the funny pictures. I like the funny pictures.
The funny pictures.
I don't know if it had like no pictures and it was just text or what, but it was a very long dialogue where he's just kind of talking about his feelings about her being taken, and I was like, you can reread this without the context of the crow.
Yeah, and just see that James.
It would
O'Barr
literally read like a diary entry.
Yeah.
And a lot of the actual art feels very like personal, like it would be in the margins of a a sketchbook or something. So very personal, and I think that's what a lot of people like about it. And there's one aspect that I watched a few videos and read some things about, and a lot of the Crow fan base is female, which I think that tracks. You know what I mean?
Why do you say that?
I think a lot of females appreciate, not this brush with broad strokes, but I think a lot of females appreciate like more personal works of art and things like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Same thing with Sandman. I want to talk about Sandman and The Matrix.
Okay, so does that make me feminine? Because that's usually like a lot of the art I really like is like personal stuff.
Well, Evan, we're very artsy.
Oh, that's true.
We're very artsy. So when I say I like, Avengers Endgame, it's because I'm very artsy.
Yeah,
it's not because I'm feminine. I'm just fucking I'm hip to it. But I just found that pretty interesting because it is very different from like probably any other comic I've read. This might be the only black and white comic I think I've ever read.
Oh, really?
I think so. I have read some Ninja Turtles, but I think mine were in color, like they were colored in post and re-released. I don't like black and white comics, but this one, it works extremely well.
I agree.
For the black and white, for the tone and just the art in general, looks great. It's not super consistent, the art, but it's like the sum of its parts kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it conveys the message it wants to. It's not trying to be, a Marvel method fucking type comic. It's trying to just get across the sentiment.
Yeah.
I think it really works for what it is. So
I agree.
Good comic.
Oh, yeah. And then a little background on the movie, I guess, more on the tragedy thing. Well, everyone knows The Crow. Brandan Lee plays Eric in it, and of course Brandan Lee died filming the movie.
Son of Bruce Lee.
Yeah, son of Bruce Lee. He died filming the movie.
Oh yeah, one of the prop guns, I guess, was loaded with real bullets, or it
I forgot what happened.
It
was a freak accident.
It was either loaded, or it backfired, or one of the blanks killed him somehow. Because contrary to popular belief, like people hear blanks and they think like it's like one of those like dollar store blank guns where it shoots a little smoke out. Blanks are real bullets. If you put a blank to your head, you'll die. If you fire a gun with a blank in it to your head, you'll die. So I don't know exactly what the logistics were, but yeah, a prop gun basically killed him. Very tragic. Yeah. And like you were saying, both the comic and the movie for that reason are very literally steeped in tragedy in a very real way. And yeah, I fucking love some angst. I want to get into that a little bit. We were in the car last night when we saw Venom 2, and I put one of my songs on, and everyone was like, this song sucks. And you know what? I don't disagree with you.
But I like angsty shit too. I just didn't like that song.
Well, I really like, I like it when it's unapologetic. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
I suppose.
And I think that relates to The Crow. I'm not saying The Crow is shitty, but I like stuff that's very raw. It can be very...
Yeah,
very
that's
good.
Especially true for the comic, I think.
Yeah, the movie's not as raw, but it's certainly more... It's more real than a lot of other, like, blockbusters.
Yeah. So should we just get into breaking down the comic first, or the movie?
Which one would you rather talk about first?
I guess the comic, since it was first.
One element I would like to mention, Evan, and... I don't know if... Should we... I think we should just talk about it. I don't think we should even separate it because they're both very
similar.
Very similar. Like I wanted to mention one thing I have in my notes is like the Christianity aspect.
Well, what do you mean by that? Well, yeah, I can see what you mean because like if we talk about the music in the comic, well, you can also talk about the music in the movie because they're similar in ways.
They definitely tried to get the soundtrack as close as they could as like the influences for the comic, which I appreciate. That's really cool. Yeah. But the Christianity aspect, like. He literally quotes scripture multiple times, Eric's clearly Christian. He talks about God, like, forgiving them and forgiving him and everything. And there's also aspects of, like, the guy who kicked her head in to mush, he cuts his legs off. And some of the shit in the comic is so brutal. Like, it's so cool, like, when he cuts his legs off. Do you know the scene I'm talking about in the comic?
I can't remember.
Basically, he turns the lights off, and then he's, like, fucking with them, and they're trying to shoot him, and they can't find him. and then he cuts off.
Yes,
his
I
legs.
do. I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously that's like a poetic justice. Like that's a kind of a Christian thing too.
I do remember that.
But like I said, he also literally quotes scripture all the time.
Because in the movie, doesn't he just shoot him in the leg? It's the same guy, isn't it? I think it's Fun Boy.
In the
one who's with Sarah's mother.
In the comic, it's not Fun Boy.
Oh, it's not? Okay,
No.
okay.
No, because it actually plays pretty similar in the movie and the comic. I think Fun Boy. He's definitely not the guy who kicks her.
Okay.
I don't think. No, because in the comic, he's actually like, he's the most forgiving to Fun Boy in the comic.
Yes, I remember.
Because he lets him OD.
Yeah.
In the comic, do you remember that?
Okay, I do remember now.
Yeah. Because he's like, oh, if you round up your other friend for me, I'll give you an easy death, and I'll give him a brutal death, whatever. It was interesting. I guess he had the most. I would have to look at it again to remember what Fun Boy did, like what his role was. I guess it was minimal, which is why he lets him get off pretty easy.
Yeah.
I think, right?
In the comic?
Yeah. I don't think Fun Boy does too much bad. Well, I mean, of course they're all evil. They're all deeply evil, I should say. But I think in regards to like what they do,
you're scaling them together.
in regards to what they do to Eric and Shelly,
Yeah.
I think his role was pretty minimal.
Yeah.
So they kind of he lets them off pretty easy. But it was still cool. Like, but a lot of the shit that the Crow says is very dense and very, like we said, abstract. So it's kind of like it's hard to pull exact quotes from my head.
I think they tried to do that in the movie. It doesn't land as well in the movie as it does in the comic. Like you said, him being like, once Eric comes back from death, he's like super poetic, like the shit he said to them. And like sometimes he comes off as a little cheesy in the movie. A bit over dramatic. It works. I like it. But like, I don't know. I like it a lot more in the comic. Like just reading it.
I think it plays better too because there's this aspect of the movie is like a super high production, like big thing. And and like we said, the Crow is literally like, if you get, this might sound like some pretentious shit we're saying where it's like, oh, it's like this guy's diary about his dead.
No.
Like, it's not like that. It's literally like, it's a very personal book. And if you read it, it really, like, the way that every page looks different, all the art looks different, like, the structure of it is very, like, not all over the place in a bad way necessarily, but just in a very, like we were saying, it's very abstract and shit like that.
The fact that it's almost like stream of consciousness type writing.
You don't see that
It's not like that at all in the movie.
You don't see that ever in a comic book, and certainly not in a fucking major motion picture.
Because, like, it kind of skips back and forth in the comic. Or, like, you're not exactly sure when the events are all happening. It might not even be in order.
They don't show...
Whereas in the movie, it's very point A, point B, point C. Because, like, it'll be like, oh, Eric murdering someone, and then the next page will be him in his room, like, crying or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well... I don't think that happened right immediately after that. It was probably earlier, but you know what I mean?
And it kind of is, it's kind of cool too because he's literally dead, so it feels like, of course you wouldn't have a I mean, not a course because we don't know, but it makes sense and it's kind of cool, like the idea that you wouldn't have a sense of time when you're fucking dead. Like you're just kind of acting,
that works too.
And you're just feeling and acting. Like that's pretty cool. And I guess that ties into like how he felt, like, you know, like how he felt about, oh, I'm dead inside, you know. Shit like that. I laugh, but it's true.
We laugh because we're also dead inside.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yankid.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I really liked about the comic is they allude to the aspect of. Sorry, I didn't start that sentence right. In the comic, I didn't structure that well at all. In the comic, the Crow often says "Don't look" or something to that effect to Eric.
I have something to say about this.
Do you? You want to talk about that now?
Yeah.
Let's get into it. I really, really like that. I relate to it, of course. I think most people would relate to it. Just the idea of, like, just don't think about it. Don't think about it. But
yeah.
It's interesting, too, because in the comic, the Crow... like you were saying, in the movie, it's very, like, concrete what the Crow is. And, of course, the Crow doesn't talk in the movie.
Yeah.
The Crow talks quite a bit in the book. But that was one of my favorite aspects of the comic is the way that the Crow was kind of guiding him. Like,
I was gonna say in the comic, I guess again this is gonna sound kind of pretentious, but whatever. The Crow is
it's a Crow podcast. Let's just let it go.
The Crow, it's like almost like his emotions personified, kind of.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
I didn't interpret it that way.
It's not the best way to put it, but it's like, you know, the way it kind of like eggs him. It's like everything, like his depression, his anger, the way it kind of like
It constantly contradicts him.
Yeah, but it kind of like picks at him.
Yes.
Kind of annoys him. You know what I mean? It's like he doesn't say like, "Oh, you fucking idiot" or anything like that, but he kind of says like shit like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Like, I can't remember off the top of my head because like I said, it's been a while since I've read it. You had to tell me.
And he calls him boy.
Yeah,
and shit like that.
I shouldn't say his emotion, but it's like
it's maybe like a super ego kind of thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know whether I interpret it as like maybe a mixture like of a supernatural thing plus like a subconscious or something.
It's not as like in the movie where it's like a literal crow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure if other people can see the crow in the comic besides Eric.
There's not an instance of that in the comic. No one notices the crow, and that becomes a plot point in the movie.
It's like it's a voice in his head.
Yeah.
That's what I should say, really. It's like a voice in his head, not in like a crazy way, but almost in a crazy way. You know what I mean?
But in a kind of like a nagging way.
Yeah,
But it's I think it's also...
It's something I can imagine maybe James O'Barr, he had that voice in his head after it's happened, you know, that anger, his sadness, whatever. It's kind of like that. You get what I mean?
Yeah, and there's some great pages in there where it's basically just the crow is just like, why are you doing this? Like, don't do this to yourself. Like,
yeah,
and it's just a very long sentimental page about like his memories with Shelly. Yeah. Whatever. She dead anyway. God rest her soul. One thing I like, I don't know if you mind if I segue into the movie a little bit.
Of course. We said we were just going to combine them anyway. So.
One thing I like a lot more in the movie, and it's an aspect of like, oh, they kind of, you know, make it a little more cinematic, and they streamline it a little bit, but I think it works a lot, and I think the comic, you know, could have benefited from it. Maybe not, because they would have lose some of that stream of consciousness kind of aspect, but I love the character Sarah, the little girl.
You like her more in the movie.
More in the movie.
Okay.
Why do you like her more in the comic?
I didn't say it's something I had to think about.
You didn't think about it.
I wasn't expecting you to say that, I guess. I don't know. Not that I wasn't expecting you to say it, it's just something I didn't really think about. I didn't think about which version I like more. Because they're completely different.
In the comic, she has a very bit part. She has a pretty big role in the movie.
I kind of like the comic book version more for one reason. But
why?
You can.
Well, no, tell me.
Well, it just feels more real. And it's very... That sounds wrong, that it's like, I like it for the... But it's a lot more sad in the comic.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell she's, like, an abused little girl who just, like, has no parental figure or anything at all. And the fact that Eric does something for her...
It means more.
Yes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in the movie, they already have that connection. But Eric is, like, I don't know, it feels almost more heroic in the comic.
Yeah, because it's kind of... that is true. Because the crow...
And I remember when I was reading, I remember that part where he gives Sarah the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the fact that he was willing to give... Because, like I said, in the movie, he knows her. But the fact that he was willing to give something so personal to him, his Shelly's ring...
Well, he's dead, though.
Well, still, you know what I mean?
But I know what you mean.
He's willing to give it to this little girl he doesn't really know.
That's not the point, yeah.
I remember when I was reading that scene in the comic, I actually teared up reading that scene. Yeah, because I was like, oh my god. It just, like, fucked me up.
One thing I really liked, because, Evan, you know I'm a big cat man.
Oh, yes, of course.
I have my big cat ears, and I have my big cat tail, and I go to Starbucks, and I shake my little tail around.
You do that.
Oh, yeah. But other than that, I also like cats a lot, just the animal. So in the beginning, I really liked...
Gabriel, the cat.
Cat, but in the movie, it's kind of just their cat. Much how like Sarah is just their friend that they kind of take care of. The cat is already just their cat.
It's almost like an adoptive daughter
in the book, right?
In the movie,
yeah, exactly. Sarah. Their hood daughter.
Yeah,
but in the comic, they save Gabriel. Not they, sorry. Post death, the crow Eric, he sees this woman just gunned down for no reason, and then he's like, the landlord will like coldly throw that cat out on the street. Yeah. And then he takes the cat in and he, you know.
That kind of says more about how the comic is just like a lot more fucked up. Because like you said, you just see gang members just like violently killing innocents for no reason.
Yeah, he basically, I think the reason he kills her is like, last time you gave me a unloaded gun or some shit, so I wanted to test it. So he tested by shooting that old woman.
Yes, yes.
Basically. But it also is interesting that in the comic is significantly more dark. But like you were saying, which is an interesting point, because I still do like Sarah. Her name is Shelly in the comic, though. which is kind of.
Oh, was it also Shelley?
In the that's why they changed it. I think because it was confusing. It's like, because that's the introduction in the comic is that he's like, oh, your name's Shelley too. I knew a Shelley once.
Oh, okay.
But in the movie, it's like, well, they already know each other, so it doesn't.
It'd be weird.
We don't need that kind of connection. But it's interesting. Sorry to get back to my point. I trail off a little bit, but it's interesting that in the comic, it's more dark. But those moments, like Eric giving Sarah or Shelley, whatever you want to call her, giving the little girl the ring, it means more in the comic. Him saving the cat being there in general means more in the comic.
Yeah.
Because the world is so dark. And one thing I wanted to mention in relation to the world just being so dark, in the movie and the comic, really, because, I mean, the comic is much more dark, obviously, but the movie is pretty brutal, too.
Yeah.
I like that they can't really have shitty cops. They do to an extent, but...
Oh, in the movie?
In both, really.
Okay.
The cops are kind of good guys in both. They're pretty good in both.
There is the cop, but he's a minor part in the comic. Whereas...
It's a pretty big part.
Yeah, in the movie.
Pretty damn big part in the movie. Which I like him a lot.
Ernie Hudson character? Yeah, I do.
He's great.
I really like that scene where he goes to his house. Because I really like what Eric tells him.
I like pretty much every scene with him.
Well, yeah, Ernie Hudson's an OG. He's awesome.
Yeah. But
we were literally talking about... I was telling you last night... Because you said you forgot Ernie Hudson was the Crow. I was the Crow. He was the cop.
God, I wish Ernie Hudson was the Crow.
You just watched it today, but we were actually talking about Ernie Hudson last night. How I said Ernie Hudson was my favorite Ghostbuster.
Oh, you did, yeah. It's true. It's true. He's a working class man.
Yeah, where the rest of them are just asshole scientists.
That is
Ernie
great.
Hudson, just a working class.
Yeah, he's like, y'all hiring? I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's funny. Remember when Ghostbusters was funny?
Yeah.
That was awesome. But yeah, Ernie Hudson is great, and what you're saying, like the scene where the Crow goes to Ernie Hudson's apartment.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot because I like what he tells him where he's like smoking, and then he's like, "Oh, I used to think that the trivial things didn't matter, but now like looking back, I'm like, yeah, the trivial things are like the most important things."
Yeah,
and I think he doesn't say it directly, but I think he's talking about like the smoking, like, oh, maybe give up things like that to save your marriage.
Yeah,
with your wife, yeah.
Yeah, true.
He kind of indirectly tells him, like, yeah, it's the little things like that that can just push them away.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that...
He's like, those things will kill you.
Yeah. Just that, I don't know, it was like... That was a really nice scene. I like that a lot.
The comic...
And that wasn't taken from the comic at all. That was purely for the movie.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. That was great.
There's a, Man, what the crap was I talking about? Something with Ernie Hudson, I don't know.
Well, we can talk about the comic version. It's just a cop.
One thing I would like to mention, Evan, to completely cut you off.
It's okay.
But yeah, the comic version, much smaller role. Kind of like Shelley. The little girl, Shelley, Sarah in the movie.
Yeah.
The little girl.
What'd you call her, the little girl?
They both really play a super small role, like maybe they have a scene equivalent in the comic.
Like we were saying, in the movie, they had to do more Hollywood type things. You gotta have the side characters and everything. Whereas in the movie, it's really just focused on
or the comic.
Eric.
The comic.
Oh yeah, in the comic. That's what I mean. The comic's just completely focused on Eric.
And I think there's value to both. I mean, I would like to see a Crow movie where it was just like a very raw, like kind of
That'd be cool.
adaptation.
That'd be cool.
But I think for what it's worth, like they did a great job of like streamlining this weird indie comic into an actual like plot that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clever that in the comic he just kills at random. He's just killing random guys that were involved at random.
Mm-hmm.
He kills the main guy. He kills like everyone's boss in like the middle of the comic, and then he just keeps going.
I could say how I thought he was more he was less sparing in the comic. For example, the pawn guy who has the ring. In the movie, he lets him live. In the comic, he just straight up murders him. So that was what I was thinking about, where I was like, oh yeah, he's a lot more brutal.
The pawn shop scene is great.
Yeah.
In both.
Yeah. It's funny when the pawn shop guy lives in the movie, and then he goes and sees like the main bad guy, Michael Wincott's character or whatever. I think his name's Michael Wincott, the actor.
The movie is pretty funny. They're both pretty funny. Honestly, there's some funny moments in the comic too.
Really?
There is. I'd have to go back and look at it, but there's some funny moments.
There's the part that I thought was funny was So the main villain, he's like in a relationship with his half sister or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the Pawn Shop's like, she's your sister, and then he's like, I'm not twisted like you two fucks.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
The Pawn Shop guy is pretty funny in the movie. He also says something really funny. It's actually laughed out loud in the movie. What does he say? God damn it. He's explaining to them what happened, basically. He's like, yeah, he blew up my fucking pawn shop and stabbed me in the hand.
They're like, this guy in makeup or whatever, and they think it's complete bullshit.
Well, yeah, but he's saying, like, and he's like, apart from that, my day sucked. I thought that was so funny.
I think the comic doesn't have, like, that main bad guy at all, right?
It does.
It does?
But he kills him in the middle of it. That's why I think also...
But he had something to do with the actual murder of Eric, right? Whereas in the movie, he had nothing to do with it.
He wasn't going to kill the main bad guy.
That's what I'm saying. In the movie, he had nothing to do with the original murder.
In the comic, he had nothing to do with it.
Oh, he didn't? Okay.
In the movie, he had everything to do with it because...
Well, the whole
he wasn't there.
Relocation thing was his...
Oh, yeah,
thing.
so we didn't really explain that in the
Which
comic.
is not part of the comic at all.
We were saying that, like, in the comic, it's a random act of violence by these gang members on the street when their car breaks down.
Which makes it, like we were saying, even worse.
Yeah.
Because they have a motive in the movie. In this, they're just violent gang members.
Yeah, in the movie, they're basically tenants. They complained about their conditions or their rent or something.
Yeah.
And then they go to rough them up to make them shut up.
Yeah, basically.
But instead, they rape and kill them.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah, messed up.
I guess them being it being random acts of violence in the comic makes more sense with what happened with James O'Barr. It just being a drunk driver who killed his wife. It
Exactly.
No motive. Yeah.
Exactly. And like I was saying, there's a very distinct page. I remember I couldn't quote it, but there's a very distinct page where he's just lamenting about the death and how random it was, and it's like this is not Eric talking. Like, it's not... This has very little like, completely nothing to do with the comic. Or, like, the plot, I guess I should say. It has everything to do with the comic, but not with the plot. So, what's something epic in the movie? What's the most epic part?
The most epic part?
The hot dog.
The hot dog.
I like the hot dog.
Those are some pretty big hot dogs.
I like when she realizes it's Eric. That's really nice.
That scene, I like that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like...
That's something that, they couldn't do in the comic, obviously. But when he says, oh, it can't rain all the time, and then she realizes right there is Eric.
Say Eric?
Yeah.
That's good.
I teared up a little bit.
That's a good little kid actress.
Yeah.
She's good.
Yeah, she was good in it, yeah.
And one part I really liked, even though, like you said, it's schmaltzy in the movie, her story. The little girl's story.
Yeah,
Because Eric literally, like, fixes her whole life, kind of.
He does in the comic, though, too, doesn't he? Doesn't he find her mother? He's like, yeah, your daughter is out there waiting for you.
But he does do that, which is still, like...
But you get the payoff in the movie, where you don't get it in the comic.
In the movie, it's like, there's a lot of shit he does for her, because, well, not only does he, like, cheer her up, he gives her the ring, he's come back to life, he fucking saves his mom from the drug lords, literally,
he takes the drugs out of her blood system.
Yeah, he reverse image searches the morphine out of her veins, and he's like, go home.
Yeah, he's like, your daughter's waiting for you.
But one thing I really liked is because... Of course, this is not realistic at all. Not even just, like, the superpowers thing, but it's not realistic for, like, a drug addict to just be done and go home and be a good mom.
Yeah.
So she's kind of that, like,
I think the fact that it was, like, can people say, like, there's something you would, like, see online or something, like, oh, they had this crazy, supernatural event happen to them.
Yeah.
And it completely changed their life. I think if it's along the lines of something like that, she's like, oh, shit. Like, you know what I mean? Because... that was completely supernatural. What happened?
Yeah, because she kind of
because she might have even known who Eric was. We don't know for sure.
I'm pretty sure she didn't.
I'm just saying it's possible because their daughter was very close to Eric and Shelley in the movie.
Yeah, but it's not like she was very close to her own daughter. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's certainly possible. We don't really know for sure.
But Evan, I was saying, excuse you.
Sorry.
It's okay. What I was saying was she goes home and she gives it her best. Like, she fucking takes a shower.
Yeah.
Like, she puts on a clean pajamas or whatever, and she starts making breakfast. And the daughter, Sarah, she's just like, what are you doing? Like, what?
Yeah, she doesn't believe it.
Yeah, she's just like, why are you playing Mommy of the Year and shit like that? And there's a really cute moment where, like, she's like, you know what? Like, you're right. We can't just fake this now. And she kind of quit. She's like, I was never good at this mommy shit anyway. And then she's like, well, I like my eggs over easy.
I like that scene a lot.
Because what does she say? She's like, I don't know, Karen or something, whatever her name is, the mom.
Yeah.
She's like, why are you playing Mommy of the Year, Karen, or whatever? Like, she doesn't call her mom.
Yeah,
mom.
yeah, yes.
And then she's like, I was never good at this mommy shit anyway. And then she's like, I like Megs over Easy, Mom. Like, she snaps. She realized what's happening.
Yeah.
She's like the daughter. And
she realized that it was genuine.
It was a genuine attempt to make things right. So she was like, let's try and make it work. And I don't think it implies really that it's like perfect now, but like
it's a work in progress.
It's nice. Yeah, Eric put them on the right track to be a happy little family.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
Which is the same thing he kind of does with Ernie Hudson's character in the movie too.
Yeah.
He's like, think about the trivial things, maybe to try and maybe save his marriage or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Which I really like that a lot.
Sorry, I had a sneeze.
Oh, okay.
And I think it passed. One thing, Evan, I want to mention something completely out of the text of the book or the movie. Okay. I want to mention something wacky, okay?
Okay.
And this is something I picked up on myself. This is not from New Rock Stars. This is not from Mr. Sunday Movies.
Okay.
This is from Dylan's brain.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Well, one of them I ripped, but one of them is one of them is mine. Okay. I'll start off with the one I ripped. So I was listening to comic book. What is it called? I think it's Comics Kayfabe or Comic Book Kayfabe.
No idea what that is.
Ed Piskor and Jim Rugg.
Okay.
They are two comics pros, and they oft make videos about comic books and such things. They did a video on The Crow. I was doing a little bit of research. I watched their video. I watched Comic Tropes video. I read some articles and shit like that. I didn't read any articles. I just watched YouTube videos.
We don't read at RNS podcast.
Not really. I didn't even read the comic. I read the audiobook. And
we looked at the pictures.
I looked at the pictures. But that's actually another thing I want to mention. But hopefully I'll remember and I'll get to that about kind of the like writer artists. Like the combo.
Yeah.
Like I want to talk about that a little bit. But first.
He was on a Frank Miller shit, you might say.
Exactly. That's what we're going to get into. But first, I wanted to mention how the comic was they mentioned this in Comic Book Kayfabe. This book seems like the inspiration somewhat for Sandman, at least the aesthetic. Some of the aesthetic.
I don't know too much about Sandman, but I can see what you mean.
There's, like, they mentioned this in the video. There's quite a few frames where it's like that could either be Death or Sandman. Like it could just read as either.
Yeah.
Because like we said, the art in the book is so inconsistent that sometimes he has hair like Death, sometimes he has hair like Sandman, sometimes he has hair that's like neither.
Yeah.
He looks very different. So sometimes he looks like both.
I will say this though, the edition we read, the one I let you borrow, it is updated.
Yes.
Because he changed some of the art and stuff. So I don't know how much of that holds true for the original comic.
It's the same.
Okay. I just want to say, because I know there are some panels that were originally cut that he added back in this edition. Well, and things like that. And he fixed some of the art.
I think a lot of what was added.
Just thought I would throw that out there.
He did touch some stuff up. No, but I literally, I looked at when they make the video, they flip through it. Mm-hmm. And I saw a lot of the same art in this that they were talking about. And also, a lot of this has, I forget what it's called. Basically, there's the original run of the Crow and then some extra stuff in this trade, so that was pretty cool.
Like there's an epilogue in this that was not in the original.
There's 2 or 3 extra issues,
yeah, or
something in there. Like there's an epilogue and then 2 other ones like interspersed.
I really like the epilogue that's in here though, but we'll talk about it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I wanted to mention Sandman. There's also there's a line. So this came out I think half a year before Sandman. Or something like that.
The original comic?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The original Sandman comic, the Neil Gaiman comic. So Neil has some explaining to do. But also, The Matrix has some explaining to do.
Oh, I'd like to hear this.
Because,
I'd like to hear this.
And this is mine.
Okay.
This is my hot take.
Yeah.
There's some scenes in here, like Eric's dual wielding, he's wearing the black trench coat, he's running around. That is very Matrix, and this is, I think, 3 years before The Matrix?
Something like that.
So the fucking Wachowski's got some explaining to do, too.
Well, yeah,
James O'Barr needs some more money.
He does.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even, there's, the scene in the movie where he does the fire and turns in, the Crow.
Yeah, the Batman thing.
The Dark Knight. Yeah.
Daredevil, too.
Oh, and Daredevil.
Yeah. Ben Affleck's Daredevil does the same thing.
So,
pretty influential.
I would say, yeah, both the comic and the movie are.
It's pretty cool. It's such I keep saying abstract. I don't want to keep saying that. Shitty. JK. The Crow sucks, JK. That's a joke for Evan that only Evan will get.
Yeah, we'll be like, no one's gonna understand that.
Andy, you listening?
Well, Andy will understand it.
But yeah, the comic, it's cool that such a weird indie comic had a lot of influence.
Yeah,
because of course the Matrix would go on to influence a lot of shit, and so would Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet. So yeah, there's my little hot take. All of these are, what's the word? What's the thing where you don't get sued?
Your opinion?
Alleged. I'm opining. These are all opinions.
Yeah. It may or may not be true.
These are all fiction. These are all jokes. So, but yeah, I thought that those two were pretty interesting because I didn't really think about how the Crow had quite a reach.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. I also like the cats in the book.
I would say there are more cats in the comic, right?
They're just Gabriel is kind of like a little nod in the movie, but in the comic the cats play a pretty big role. Not a big role, but they're pretty big. Like cats love him. Like they want to follow him around.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's almost makes him feel more supernatural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is strange because it's like more ambiguous in the book. I mean, it's not super ambiguous. It's like he's pretty magic, but
but like they don't give you that exposition in the comic where like he's risen from the dead. You just kind of get the idea. Whereas in the movie, they pretty much explain it to you how this works.
Yeah. It all goes that's one thing I wanted to mention too is like I said, he kills the main villain of the movie where you could easily have posed him as the main villain of the comic, but they chose not to.
Yeah.
He kills him in the middle of the movie. The origin is like 1/3 through, and he's like already doing Crow stuff for the first like few issues.
Yeah.
It's very weird in the comic, but in the movie they say, okay, let's just fucking put this in a normal movie order.
Yeah.
And let's put like the origin, the little like the rape, murder, and then it goes in chronological order completely through the whole movie.
Yeah, and it has that very distinct scene where he kind of transforms into the Crow or whatever.
Yeah, he has his Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Where he like punches the mirror and then puts the makeup on.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I really like that scene. This is what I was gonna say before about the don't look thing. So
oh, that's awesome.
During that scene, we can talk about the music, I guess, a little bit too. They have the song "Burn" by The Cure playing, which The Cure they wrote it for the movie.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and in the lyrics he's saying "Don't look, don't look."
Oh, that's
I'm
cool.
like, and that's not in the movie at all.
Oh,
so that means
cool.
like Robert Smith actually read the comic.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And I bet James O'Barr that made him have a big smile on his head.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, fucking your wife's dead, man. I'm sorry about that, but at least, you know.
Well, yes, James O'Barr, if you read the comic, he's very clearly a fan of The Cure and Joy Division.
Yes.
Because they have their lyrics. And then the chapters in the comic are like named after Joy Division songs and stuff like that.
But that's pretty fucking cool that like an influence on the book wound up writing for the movie. That's pretty cool.
That's cool, yeah.
And
I didn't work.
I didn't notice that for whatever reason.
Yeah, he said don't look, and that's not in the movie at all.
That's the only aspect of it is in that song. I gotta add that song to my Batman playlist.
Yeah, you gotta do.
That's my dark playlist. That's my edgy playlist. But that's one of my favorite aspects of the comic, and I can't even explain why really. It's a feeling that doesn't get expressed very much in art.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, strike a chord with me. I like it.
Yeah. So The Cure, they did something for the movie. There is no Joy Division in the movie, but there is a 9 Inch Nail cover of a Joy Division song.
That counts.
Yeah. So
guess what? That counts.
So yeah, they in the movie I think a lot of it was songs that the band did for the movie, and it's like for the time I feel like this was like the soundtrack must have been
soundtrack.
Yeah, it must have been crazy because at the time it's like all relevant bands from the 90s like not Tool. Why did I say Tool? Helmet is what I meant to say.
Okay.
Helmet, Stone Temple Pilots, The Cure, 9 Inch Nails. I think the Rollins Band have a song there. Rage Against the Machine has a song in it.
It sounds like my cousin Lauren's CDs from back in the day.
So yeah, that's so music is a big part of the comic and the movie, which is pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because obviously music, I would say that the comic, like in its structure, almost even resembles music in a way, which is also very pretentious. If you don't mind me calling that out again, sorry to call it out again, but just in the way like if I can mention Weezer,
of course,
for a moment, of course we can mention Weezer. Oh my goodness. Rivers Cuomo, and I'm sure there's a ton of other artists that have this method, but I was reading, or let's be honest, I was listening to Anthony Fantano talk about the fact that, I think it was him, talk about the fact that he kind of just writes down thoughts, feelings, bars, and then kind of puts them into place later, and they don't necessarily have to make sense.
Well, I think that's really what he did for Pinkerton.
Yeah.
Because that's why, like, apparently, like, as the legend goes, is that Rivers Cuomo hates Pinkerton now because it got shit on at the time it came out. And he finds it, like, deeply embarrassing.
For reference, though, if you don't know Weezer, which you probably fucking, let's hope you don't.
Yeah.
Pinkerton is a very, like, it was their second album, and it was very personal, and it was I don't want to say this, but it was kind of like The Crow, you know? But it's not the same in terms of, the actual feelings it's conveying, but like I was saying, it's very hard on your sleeve, which I love that kind of thing.
Yeah, me too. That's what I'm kind of saying earlier. That's usually the kind of art that's like my favorite.
Yeah.
It's stuff that's personal.
Yeah.
Or at least hits you in a very personal way at the very least. That's usually the kind of stuff I like.
But yeah, I was saying, like the comic has a very structure like that, where it's kind of like, it stems from, and I was also watching a video on, what's his name? David Lynch on what's his show?
Oh, Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. I was watching a video. Why can't I remember the name? I've never seen Twin Peaks anything, and I've listened and watched like 8 hours of Twin Peaks content. I don't know. I was bored, but they were talking about how one of David Lynch's kind of methods is that he has like one central thought or idea or feeling, and then he builds out from there.
Yeah.
And if they don't completely connect, it doesn't matter. Like they're all there to service the main feeling.
I can see what you mean.
Which is like, it's very similar to music. A lot of like the way people make music, and also the Crow comic. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about, since we mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, about what you don't like in the movie versus what you think the comic does better, or vice versa?
Yes.
I think there's something we're talking about the ending.
I think we talked about a lot of the differences I wanted to touch on already. So yeah, go ahead.
All right, so this is something I didn't like, but I guess like we were saying, makes more sense for a Hollywood movie type thing. They had to put that, like, they find a way to try and stop Eric, which is by shooting the Crow.
Yeah,
the Crow takes damage and it hurts Eric. I'm like, book, that's really stupid.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of like stakes.
Yes, precisely.
In the book, there's literally like, he's a zombie, he comes back, kills everyone, goes back.
Yeah.
To you know.
None of what they do phases Eric at all in the comic.
No, not even slightly. I think that's also why he gets away with being more poetic in the book, is because he's literally there to kill them and fuck around and then leave. But in the movie, it's implied that like, well, there's kind of things in the background.
Yeah.
There's actual kind of a method to it. So it feels like, well, why are you doing poetry when they can kill your crow?
Yeah. So that's kind of go for what you're saying. In the comic, it just feels more like a vengeful spirit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in the movie, he's more. I don't want to say physical. He's obviously a physical being. He's more
vulnerable in the movie, obviously.
So the end of the movie, they're like, "Oh, if you attack the crow, maybe I'll hurt him or whatever."
Yeah. And it doesn't.
That's word for word what they say.
It doesn't. That is what they say. It's the Asian woman, the half sister, the incestual girl.
That's deeply disturbing. Actually, the movie's more disturbing than the comic for that reason. The villain is having sex with his half-sister.
Yeah, they do a lot of weird character stuff with that villain.
Yes. Anyways, so she's like, oh yeah, the crow is his connection to the other world. Maybe if we kill the crow, you can kill him. So they start shooting the crow, and now he's vulnerable to bullets. Yeah. So like you said, they kind of need to add stakes because it's a Hollywood movie, so you know what I mean?
But I do, honestly... Even though it wouldn't, obviously this would not play in the comic at all.
No, it would not.
But I do,
especially for the tone of the comic.
Well, even like the entire climax of the movie really wouldn't play in the comic. But I mean specifically, I like the moment where Ernie Hudson busts in with the flare gun. And
that part is badass. So yeah, we forgot to mention that. It's also like, it's a cool, awesome action scene with him and Ernie Hudson teaming up to fight them. Whereas in the comic, it's not like that at all.
No. Yeah. Like we said, really, the comic is. There's an aspect of progression in the movie that the comic absolutely does not have. And I think it's more accurate to kind of like the feeling of loss and like trying to get through grief in the comic, where it's like, well, it's all the same. And he has a realization, I think, that you wanted to talk about also towards the end. Yes,
okay. There's something I really want to talk about that I think is done really well in the comic, and they don't have this in the movie at all. Well, in the comic, Eric tells Shelley, like, he like promises that, oh, I'm always going to be there to protect you or whatever. And then it's especially in the added epilogue, like they focus on it a little bit more, but it's still throughout the comic. He kind of blames himself for what happened.
Yes.
And that's not in the movie whatsoever. I don't think really. Not really.
I guess
it's
not.
a lot more emphasized in the comic. Because he promised Shelley that he was always going to protect her no matter what. Well, obviously he failed.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of it is him blaming himself. But towards the end of it, in that epilogue, he kind of realizes like it's not his fault. Shit just happens.
Well, one thing
shit that's out of our control.
One thing I really liked in particular, because like you were saying, there's this aspect of the Crow is kind of like his. I don't know if you want to. I'm not a fucking psychologist. His like super ego or like his subconscious or whatever you want to call it, where the Crow is the one that's kind of like. The Crow says you have to forgive, and then this is actually the one time where the Crow is kind of mean to him, but it's in like kind of a loving way. Where Eric's like, how can I ever forgive them? And he's like, no, you idiot, like yourself.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
And it feels that feels also like you were saying, like kind of the epiphany thing with the mom or whatever.
Yeah, that
felt like an epiphany. Like that felt like an internal epiphany.
And this is before he goes back. It feels almost like, and I really like this a lot. The last thing he had to do before he was able to go back and rest in peace was accept what happened and forgive himself. Yeah, which I really like that a lot in the comic. I just thought it made sense, I think. One
thing that's very interesting that I don't remember, I think it was an interview with James O'Barr where he was like, as I kept going, the comic was torture. Like it it was not, as I was going, I expected it to get,
it was meant to be therapeutic, but it actually made me more depressed.
He expected it to be more and more therapeutic as it went along, but it was the opposite. And then towards the ending, he kind of wrote the ending as a response to himself. Like, it's literally like the Crow is going to kill all these people to kind of try and get retribution, but ultimately he kind of realized in real life, like, I have to forgive myself. Like, it's... Yeah.
And, I don't know, it's a good message, I think, yeah.
And that also comes across way more real, because that's, like, just having this guy go on... And it feels more aimless. Well, of course, this isn't even an element in the movie, really. But it feels more aimless since there's no rhyme or reason, really. He's just going to kill everyone that was involved. Yeah. And then go back. And then he realizes, like, oh, that wasn't why I was back, I guess. Like, or I guess...
but it's like he still had one last thing to do. He kind of... That's what they kind of say in the comic. Not explicitly, but yeah.
It's not intentional. It's definitely not intentional because of when you hear James O'Barr talk about the process. But it just feels really, like... true is that he came back to get revenge, and that would in turn make him realize like that wasn't the point. I guess, you know. So
that was one of my favorite parts of the comic, and that's not really in the movie at all. But it's fine. It didn't have to be, obviously. Like we were saying, the comic is a lot more personal than the movie. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I gotta say about the.
He looked like the Joker.
Yeah, he looks like the Joker.
He looks like Heath Ledger mixed with Joaquin Phoenix. Is that a coincidence?
Maybe.
Doesn't he?
Maybe not.
A little bit?
Well, I think Christopher Nolan is a fan of The Crow.
Christopher Nolan can eat shit.
I mean, he's overrated. But
yeah. Christopher Nolan can eat shit.
He ripped a lot of stuff in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But if we ever talk about The Dark Knight or...
Which we won't.
We won't? Okay. Yeah.
Honestly, Batman Begins wouldn't be a bad Halloween subject, but we got our plans.
Yeah, we do.
We got our plans. Maybe I'll make a Capes and Tights video about Batman Begins. Evan, what's your favorite Crow fun fact?
Favorite Crow.
Did you know the author's wife also died, like the book?
No, I don't think I mentioned that. I don't think I knew that.
Well, yeah, the ending fucking is very. Also, Blade Runner ripped off the Crow. Remember the ending of the movie?
What, 2049?
2049, no.
The original Blade Runner?
Yeah, I'm joking.
I'm about to say that was way before this.
I'm joking.
Okay.
But yeah, them fighting in the rain on the rooftop.
Oh.
Yeah. One thing that I think is cool, this is a really small thing, but is pretty cool. He, like, kills the guy, the main villain, the Crow in the movie. He kills the main villain. He pushes him and he's impaled on a gargoyle, and then gargoyles are not built like this, but all the blood flows down the gargoyle out of its mouth. It's pretty dope.
I don't remember that.
I think that happens, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. Who directed The Crow?
Alex something. Alex Proyas.
Maybe he's not very substantial?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
He made like what movie did he make? It was something shitty that he made like not that long ago.
What else did Brandan Lee do? I bet he had a big, expansive career after this.
Not really.
No? He didn't do too much?
He was dead. Rest in peace, Brandon.
Oh.
Kind of sucks. He was going to be in breakout role.
I know. Yeah, he was really fucking good in it,
Yeah,
too.
he was.
No cap.
So rest in peace, Brandon.
And it's weird. He doesn't look anything like Bruce Lee. Is he adopted?
No.
Oh.
Well, I mean, their mother is white.
She's half white.
He's half white.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, but he's just half white. That's why he didn't look like him. Yeah, he looks fucking nothing like Bruce Lee.
Well, no, you should like look at pictures of him like in some of the movies he did before it, or just like with his hair shorter. He looked kind of like him. Yeah.
Okay.
Without the makeup on.
You know what's epic?
What is?
And this is me analyzing art, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
The rain washes away the paint after he kills the guy, because now he is reborn.
He's reborn again?
He's reborn into death.
Oh. And he goes to sleep.
Hell yeah.
Rest in peace forever.
Hell yeah. I actually really think that the shot is really cool of him, like, collapsing at Shelley's grave.
Yeah,
at
it
the
is.
End of the movie.
It is.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Good movie. Good
Fucking
comic.
sweet movie, yeah.
Good movie,
I remember when I saw... Oh, one thing I did want to mention. This is stupid, but it feels... I love the aesthetic of, like... what is it called when they film stuff inside? Soundstage?
I guess.
I love, like, the Tim Burton Batman Gotham, like, and The Crow also has that aspect of it where it's just, like, this, like, rundown city that's filmed on a soundstage.
Yeah,
It's
I do
cool.
like it. I
like that aesthetic a lot.
I agree.
It's
I
cool.
agree.
Looks great. Looks great. Thanks, The Crow.
Do you want to talk about that,
The Crow sequel, City of Angels?
No, I don't want to talk about the sequels.
Oh.
No, the supposed remake that's
With
been in
fucking
development.
Jason Momoa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. Honestly, I'd be interested as fuck if they were like, we're doing fucking shot for shot the comic.
I think whoever is supposed to be directing it was like, yeah, it's gonna be closer to the comic.
How much? Like, really?
But I'm like with Jason Momoa.
If it's a Hollywood movie, also, yeah, like Eric, like
he's not a built dude.
He's not a superhero.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's fucking.
I mean,
yeah.
he's a little bit ripped. Like he got abs and like the pecs and everything.
But fucking God gave him those. Not like,
yeah.
He didn't do. Well, he does do sit-ups actually. You remember that?
Is it in the comic?
In the comic, he works out.
Oh, okay, but he's not built like Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is a big dude.
Because could you imagine like this like? Could you imagine like Jason Momoa's girlfriend being raped and murdered in front of him? And him just being ripped and, like, laying there.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like, of course that's realistic. Like, you can't take on 4 guys at once in real life. But
it doesn't play out well in a Hollywood movie.
It wouldn't play in a movie, especially, like, do your Aquaman.
Yeah.
Like, fucking stand up.
Exactly, yeah.
That doesn't track, no.
Yeah.
But Brandan Lee is fucking perfect.
But what if it was like... What if it was like Captain America: The First Avenger, where it's like they CGI Jason Momoa to be little,
That's
and then,
so fucking silly.
And then he comes back and he's ripped like normal Jason Momoa.
That would literally be fucking terrible.
Or would it be great?
No, it would be terrible.
Maybe it'd be awesome.
They should get like his little brother.
Yeah, they get Jason Momoa's little brother.
Yeah, James Momoa.
I can't imagine Jason Momoa being CGI'd little like Chris Evans. I cannot envision that whatsoever.
It would look so stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Sure, give it a whirl, Hollywood. Give it a whirl.
Please don't. Please don't. Evan, do you want to discuss anything else in the world of pop culture or film or movies or TV shows or video games?
Like before we end this?
Yeah. You want to tack anything on?
Not really.
No? Kind of done?
Yeah, makes sense. End it with the Crow remake. That sounds good to me.
Alright, can I ask you one more thing?
Of course.
If they were going to make a Crow video game, what kind of game would you want? Arkham?
No.
Batman Arkham style video game?
It would be like Turtles in Time. A 2D beat 'em up.
That's exactly what it would be. Yeah, it would not be an
2D
Arkham game. Imagine Detective Vision with the Crow.
No.
That's stupid as fuck. No, but a beat 'em up would be perfect.
Yeah, a 2D beat 'em up on the streets.
That actually makes sense.
Like Turtles in Time.
I'd prefer a pachinko machine.
That'd be pretty good too. Yeah, do a pachinko machine. I could go with that.
Evan, I think you have one little. Well, first of all, before we get into our very, very last, I just wanted to remind our wonderful fans to like, comment, subscribe.
Please do it. Please do
No,
it.
but seriously, I appreciate it if you would like. If you know any emo girls that you want to impress, you're like, oh, look at these 2 smart guys I know where they break down the Crow in great detail.
Yeah, tell them to listen.
Yeah, man, tell them to listen. I think that was a pretty good discussion about the Crow. If you like the Crow, Fucking
go buy the comic. Support comics.
Yeah, if you've seen the movie and you haven't read the comic, try out the comic because it's like, it's very good.
Don't give Marvel your fucking money.
Honestly,
horrible comics.
This might be a bit of a hot take, but I'm a bit sick of Marvel. So
yeah.
Well,
I mean, their comics are actually god awful, so don't spend your money on that.
Or
so is DC for that matter, but at least DC has some good titles.
Can I mention something, Evan?
Yes.
The only 2 comics I'm buying right now are both Batman comics, and they're both from completely defunct Batman franchises. Those are the only 2 things I read. I might go back and read the Superman 78 book, but right now the only 2 things I'm reading are Batman 89, the Batman comic that takes place in Tim Burton's Batman universe, and Batman: The Adventures Continue, which is the animated series comic book that came back out. But yeah, comics are fucking terrible. Keep buying manga, I guess.
Or The Crow.
Or The Crow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you for listening, guys. Before we head out, I have of course, cool Dylan fact number 2.
Oh my god.
Cool Dylan fact number
Evan,
2.
wait. Can I do a cool RNS fact?
No.
Please.
This isn't a segment. We only do cool Dylan facts.
Okay, well, can I just mention something?
Okay.
This is our 10th episode.
Oh, it is?
Yay!
Not a bad one.
Cool.
Not a bad one.
Very cool.
10th episode.
All right, please continue. All about me.
Cool Dylan fact number 2.
Oh, yeah.
His favorite 2D Mario game is Super Mario Bros. 3.
Holy crap. I didn't know that.
Really?
Oh.
Now you know.
Good for Dylan. By the way, this hasn't been Dylan the whole time. This has been Andy.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Bye, guys.